Tom Cruise, as we all know, is one of the last remaining movie stars. He wants to make movies for the big screen. I know that the world and cinema is shifting towards streaming and the that sort of immediate availability, but Tom Cruise especially is drawing a line in the sand and saying that I still make my movies for the big screen to be seen in cinemas. He is still trying to do most of the action practically, and I have to give him the biggest thanks for the movie that we got, because I know that a lot of it goes to the director and the cast and the producer and all the people, and it's more than one man, but there's not another person on the planet, and this I could be wrong, but this is just my opinion. I don't think there's another movie star on the planet that could get this movie done the way that it was done, that has the longevity and the gravitas and the backing and the money to just be like, you know what? We're either going to do this movie my way and we're going to do it real, and you're going to send me and all my co-stars to flight school for 6 months to train us how to fly these jets. That's why you see all these scenes and they look so authentic, is because they are, because Tom Cruise insisted that they would be. We see the actual G's on these actors and actresses faces, and we live these moments. There are real cameras up in the cockpits of these jets, and it can't be overstated how important it is, especially when you're talking about, let's be honest, a fairly simplistic movie when it comes to plot. But that's also not a detriment. I think that that is a strength. We understand what's going on. We understand what's at stake. Okay? We spend 90% of this movie either learning about the mission, watching them do to practice the mission, or actually engaging in the mission. So this movie is all about this clear goal that all of our protagonists are on, and we understand what they need to do. So again, spend most of the movie talking about how impossible it is. One of the first standout scenes is when Maverick jumps into the plane and shows his students exactly what it takes to get this done and come home. He seems to be the only one, at least at first, that realizes that if they don't execute this 100% the way he's laying it out, they're not going to get out of this. These fighters are too advanced and they stand no chance in a dogfight. Um, and somebody not coming back does not seem to be a stake that Maverick is willing to accept. Another thing that you have to give this movie credit for, and again, I'm not hating on greater franchises or extended universes, because wasn't long ago we were lauding these franchises for building these grand stories and telling these long payoffs. So we can't just turn around in a few years and start crashing them for doing the same thing. We're okay with both. Okay, I don't know why one has to be one way and one has to be other. Okay, I can appreciate Marvel and the MCU for telling these decade-long stories that are gonna have payoffs that you can't even comprehend. If you thought Endgame was great, imagine if they bring Tony Stark and Captain America back in 10 years. Anyway, but what we have here is a movie again that pulls on nostalgia just enough. Okay, just enough. It doesn't lean on it like a crutch, but it pulls on it like your favorite dish that you just add a little bit of spice to. You know what I mean? Like this movie, if you haven't seen the original, it stands on its own and you can enjoy it because it's well acted. The action sequences are perfect. There are a couple visuals in this movie that blew my mind. One being towards the beginning of the movie when Pete is still testing his stealth, trying to achieve Mach 10. And there's a visual that I remember where you see his plane flying off in the distance, and a lot of it is close. A lot of it is real visceral, real violent. They want you to feel like you're in the cockpit with these pilots, but there is one moment where they pull back.
Mach 8.8, 8.9, Mach 9.
He's the fastest man alive.
It doesn't need to be there, but I appreciate it because it is. And then you follow this beautiful score, this beautiful reserved moment where Cruise proves that he still is that Maverick. He has to push a little bit past the breaking point, and the plane explodes, and we get one of the first examples of the beautiful writing and the amazing script that we get here, with just organic comedy. Like, not everything has to be a snappy one liner or a forced joke. And again, I'm not picking fun at the MCU. I'm a huge MCU fan, but they are getting way too heavy handed with the constant bombardment of jokes and one liners and wisecracks. Not everybody has to be a snarky asshole, okay? And it's nice that, in this moment, I'm referencing Tom Cruise just walks in and grabs a glass of water, drinks it down.
Nick, where am I?
Uh,
Tom Cruise has proven that he's the last of a dying generation, and if this is his piece de resistance, if this is his final gift to the world, if this is his Mona Lisa, his masterpiece, I think he laid it all out there. This is an absolute definition of a one-off, and I haven't heard too many people say it, but after a year, I've seen it enough times now to know that it's not just recency bias. I'm throwing this in the conversation, at least for me, of greatest sequels of all time, right up there with, Terminator 2 and Godfather 2, and sequels that just completely surpass the original. I think that this improves as a movie every single way that it can. This movie also pays special care to paint the female characters in a much more flattering light than the original. And that's not surprising. We have come a long way in the way that they used to present female characters in the 80s. But Phoenix, especially, is a standout. She is not only presented as, just a member of the bunch, but she's one of the leaders. She is one of, if not the best and most capable fighter pilot in the bunch, and is always treated as such. There are no moments where she's disrespected because she's a woman. They know that she's a bad mother trucker, and she knows it. So I do respect that. And I also, conversely, I like that the male antagonists, even the same side male antagonists, in the first act that we see so often in these types of movies, yes, they're dickish. Yes, they're assholes, but they never push to the point of like maliciousness. The worst thing that Hangman says to Rooster is the truth. The truth that he always waits for the perfect moment and it never comes and he never acts. So, Hangman does see himself as elite and better than everybody else, but it's not to the point where he wants them to fail. He wants to beat them at their best. You can tell. You can tell by the way he speaks to them. You can tell by the way that he addresses Phoenix. He sees her as an equal, at least as close to anybody is going to be being his equal. So he does have respect for her, even in the beginning. And by the end of it, obviously, when the chips are down, he's not being an asshole. He wants to help. And when he does get the opportunity to shine, the secondary characters as a whole, Phoenix, Bob, Hangman, Flyboy, there's a lot of really, really great moments in this movie. And it's not just Maverick. We do get Maverick and Iceman back in the same room. And those two men are able to express decades of emotion and friendship in just a few minutes. And you just add in the fact that Val Kilmer is really struggling with, throat cancer and problems. It just adds that layer of realism to it all. And again, it's just beautifully acted. Cruise and Kilmer in top form. It's not so much two people pretending to be characters as it is two thespians that have completely embodied these characters, jumped back into these roles, and they're speaking to one another as brothers. And you can see it, you can feel it. It's a deeply touching moment, and I'm glad that they gave Iceman that closure before they ultimately killed off his character. They don't hang on it too long, just enough to give us closure. I have to give, again, a special shout out to all of the aerial sequences in this movie. Again, Tom Cruise did the Tom Cruise thing and made sure that all of his co-stars went to training, learned how to fly these jets so they could get actual footage of them in the cockpits, feeling the G's, feeling the force, and acting accordingly. So that level of authenticity really adds to it. The sound design, the music, the score, everything. You feel like you're there. You feel like you're in the cockpit. You're flying all over the place. You're in real danger. And again, there are moments where you kind of jump out of your seat because you forget that you're not sitting, shotgun with Phoenix. Again, when it's all said and done, this movie is going to be a one-off. They're not going to make a sequel. They're not going to do another one. So just enjoy it for what it is. It's truly just going to be a special type of experience where we get to jump back in this world, see some characters that we remember from our past, and just have a good time at the movie theater like we used to. And I hope that Hollywood sees that we appreciate these greater expanded universes, but at the same time, we don't mind isolated, more realistic, grounded stories about just real people. But the writing has to be great, the acting has to be great. You have to make it worth our while. Very much like cooking. If you're going to do something simple, you really got to nail it.